All right, so we're back and we're going to talk about the worker oriented techniques. Basically, we are going to focus on the human characteristics that contribute to successful job performance. This is going to allow us to look at the people and maybe make comparisons across jobs a little bit more smoothly. Like, what characteristics do you need as a worker in order to be successful in this job, that job, and this other job, right? It allows you to start seeing how you as a worker fit in rather than what you as a worker would be doing. So the job element method, um, remember job elements are the knowledge, skills, and abilities and other characteristics that are required for successful job performance. And elements of a job are like the tiniest little parts. So we're going to directly connect the job analysis to selection context through these case-outs. So we're going to figure out how the things we learn from job analysis can take us to the proper recruit for our job opening by assessing the knowledge, skills, abilities, and others. So to achieve this goal, we're going to get subject matter experts to develop a list of job elements and sub-elements, and then they're going to provide work examples for each of those elements and sub-elements. So they're going to show us the thing that the clerk typist typed, or they're going to show us a person steaming milk, or right. So they're going to show us what that task is. So it might be an output, something that here's a spreadsheet that's been filled out, or it might be an action that you would observe and record. So the benefit of this is that it kind of glosses across different jobs. The main criticism is it kind of glosses across jobs. And so some people have complained, well, yeah, just because you know how to steam milk doesn't mean that you automatically know how to fill a cup with Coke at another kind of drive-through that would also serves beverages, right? So it says, you're saying that in both cases we're putting some kind of beverage in a cup, but there are there's specificity to these tasks. So some people complain about that. All right, now there are two other kinds of worker-oriented techniques that I wanted to kind of compare side by side. The position analysis questionnaire, and then the common metric questionnaire. So these are tools that we can use to actually just ask questions in a very structured way. The position analysis questionnaire is the best known method of collecting this kind of information. It's a standardized instrument that what that means is that there are ways that you're supposed to administer it, that everybody gets the same basic experience when they're completing this questionnaire. It's comprised of 187 items, which is a pretty long questionnaire, honestly. But in this questionnaire, you're going to have questions about general work behaviors, work conditions, job characteristics. So you need a lot of questions because there are a lot of things that you're going to be asked about, and you need to respond. It's standardized, so it's not going to be any kind of open-ended questions. It's all multiple choice and choosing from a list. Criticism of this particular questionnaire is that it was designed with a high reading level. That's kind of a mistake that is commonly made among IO psychologists when developing their questionnaires, is that they oftentimes expect the respondents, because they are employed adults, to have a higher reading level than they probably do. In general, in psychology, we try to use like the 8th grade reading level as our goal. Not in an insulting because people can't read way, but just because why are you taxing somebody as they're trying to complete a questionnaire? So it's taxing to have to try and read at a higher level throughout this entire 187 items. And it's not well suited if what you're trying to describe is a managerial job. The questions that are on the list are not appropriate for managerial jobs. So it's more for jobs that are going to be managed than managers. A lot of the items are too abstract. So you have prompts that it's sort of like in the eye of the beholder, what the question's really asking. And that's not a good way to design questionnaires. If you want standardized answers, You need questions that are phrased in such a way that everybody's sort of interpreting it the same way. And unfortunately, these are a little bit too abstract. The Common Metric Questionnaire was developed in 1998. So this is a more recent development. I'm not even sure the year on the Position Analysis Questionnaire. It's been around since I've ever known of anything. So a long time. It was developed in 1998, but oh no, we're going the wrong direction. 2,077 items on this one. And there are 80 dimensions that of job qualities that are assessed here. And you take this questionnaire on a computer, which for some people is a downside. For scoring it, it's like you have to do it online. Like, how are you going to score 2,077 items otherwise? So it's good that it's on the internet or on the computer, but it's also bad. The goals of the Common Metric Questionnaire are to describe work activities using a common set of items written at an abstract level. So notice that they're going for an abstract level. So they're not talking about any specific job. They're talking about in general. Do you do this or that? Do you do these kinds of things? It's kind of abstract in that way. And the rating scale has the same meaning across all the different jobs that are there. So it's not like any kind of inherent ordering to the answers. So you don't have like this one's the lower level job and this is the higher level job and you can represent that numerically. It's not like that. The rating scale is the same no matter what the job is. One main improvement that it provides over the Position Analysis Questionnaire is that the items are more behaviorally specific. The reading level is lower and it's relevant for both managerial and non-managerial jobs. So it does correct for the main criticisms of the PAQ, but at the downside of having 2,000 items on a scale. I just have to laugh at that because, I mean, it's hard to get college students to respond to questionnaires that have more than, 100 items on them. And so to have 2,000, that must be just torture to take that scale. It does take about 3 hours. That's the main criticism, like 3 hours of time to get through that. And I mean, you have to take a break in the middle. I mean, it's a lot. So these are our two main ways of collecting the kind of information that would allow us to do a worker-oriented analysis. So some advances in job analysis practice and research. So using the internet to gather and organize job analysis information, what a relief. I don't know how people did it back in the day when they had to do things by hand. When I first entered this field, we had to administer questionnaires on paper and pencils and then hand score them. And I got to tell you what, it introduces so much error. And we never had anything that was 2,000 items long. And you'll notice that one got invented after computers came along and everybody had one. Like nobody was going to hand score those. There's a lot of opportunity for making error in the scoring that when you use a computer, you don't have that problem. It allows you to organize stuff really quickly. You can do it by column or topic. You don't even have to be doing a statistical analysis. You can just do sort of a sort method and you can get information like that. And so it's just such an improvement. The development of metrics to help analyze job analysis data. So we have new ways of sort of, I want to say rank ordering. I don't know if that's the word I want, rank ordering, but sort of standard comparisons that are now, we have so much data that we can kind of compare the new incoming information to all this background of all the decades of information to sort of get baselines about how people are doing and what this job means and all the things that we need. We have so much more baseline now. And then there have been some advancements in understanding what the subject matter experts mean in their ratings. Again, that's based on just accumulation of interviews with SMEs and SMEs correcting researchers' misinterpretations and things like that have accumulated and have become, like we talked in the last chapter about how important it is for IO psychologists to produce science. And so when they put that stuff into the literature, anybody who's going to undertake a job analysis has that at their disposal. Right now it's available for us to read. So we can get insights from other people who have already had this experience, and that's a huge benefit. So the more data, the more background information there is, the better the current job analysis is going to be. Huge advantage. So one of the things that we have learned through all that background information is that sometimes subject matter experts will engage in what we call self-serving behavior. They'll try and make the job seem more complicated than it really is because, oh, look how big and important we are. Or what a great supervisor I am because I make sure all my employees do these very complicated things or whatever. So sometimes they will describe a job in a way that's not accurate, but that makes them look good. Sometimes they will endorse ability statements as if those ability statements are important when in fact they aren't important to the completion of the job. They may say, oh yeah, you need to come in being able to type 60 words per minute. And when in reality, nobody needs to type 60 words per minute in this job. That you don't need that ability. You need to lift 50 pounds repeatedly across the day. And the truth is, you might lift 50 pounds once in a week in this job. But they will endorse those ability statements even when they aren't important. The other thing that they've noticed is that a lot of times SMEs try to job craft, where they are trying to design the job to fit a particular employee that maybe they already have, or maybe to describe themselves. And so they're tailoring the very skills that the person who's doing the job and doing it well seems to have, even though those skills might not be critical to performing that job. And so you end up with data that's not very reliable because they're so busy trying to just match the descriptions to what's already there. And so these kinds of things, these advancements in understanding SME ratings have accumulated over the literature. And actually, once they started to notice this across the literature, people started having this be their research goal, is to find out what factors go into SMEs giving incorrect information. And they don't do it on purpose. They never do it on purpose. They're doing it. That's the thing. They're not doing it because they want to tank the job analysis. They're doing it because they want to look good, or because they don't want to be the one to say you don't need that ability, or because they don't want to make the person who's in the job look bad or whatever. And so it's not on purpose. It's just, it is. They are doing it. So why do we do job analysis? It's necessary to the success of many HR functions, and it's also the first line of defense against workplace lawsuits. So when we talk about being necessary to HR functions, first off, job classification, like what kind of position is this? At the university, for example, they have two main classifications of, I guess they have three if you count student employees. So they have like student employees, and then they have classified employees, they call it. Actually, you know what? I think there's actually another category that I can't think of the name of. And then there's faculty. So there's like faculty, there's classified, there's student employees, and I think there's a fourth category called, I can't remember what it's called. I think there's a fourth category. But needing to, we need to know what category this job belongs in, so that we're doing all, maybe there's a union that relates to one of those classifications and not another. Maybe there are, like restrictions on the job, like it has to be certain hours, or it has to be in certain locations, or other things. And so we need to know the classification of the job so that we can implement the proper HR stuff. So job classification, criterion development and performance appraisal. So, we want to make sure that we have clear stipulations about the goals, the objectives, and the criteria for evaluating employees in these jobs. HR is, a lot of times people think they're just rule followers who are just trying to make you jump through hoops and things like that, but they're trying to protect the organization from lawsuits. They're trying to make sure that employees are not being taken advantage of, things like that. And so when we are evaluating an employee, it's important for us to know what tasks they should be doing, what skills they should have, what was part of the hiring process that we expected and you said you could do. After my daughter spent the weekend learning how to use that software program, and was able to get through whatever it was for the interview, she better be able to do it when she got on the job, or else she's not going to be evaluated very well, right? Selection and placement, we need to identify the CASAUs because that helps us to decide who to hire and who to place in what position. And when it comes time for promotion, that's another time where the CASAUs are going to be important. So we want people's CASAUs to be accurate so that we can do these things. For job design and redesign, we want to make sure that we use these job analysis protocols so that we can reveal any kinds of problems that exist in an existing job as we're redesigning it, or in the existing workplace, like what balls are being dropped that we could design a job around that would help keep things rolling the direction they should be rolling, those kinds of things. It improves efficiency by revealing those problems. And then finally, job analysis helps us to identify the areas where training is needed so that we can design, really, I want to say curtail, but that's not the word I want, right? Where you're really carefully crafting, that's what I want, the training to address specific issues, maybe skills that are lacking or knowledge that's missing or something like that. And especially if it's a problem that a lot of people are having, we realize, okay, so we need to get everybody up to speed. And so we need to develop a training for this. I'm thinking back to when, again, we converted to computers. There were, training programs to help people to learn how to use the word processors who were already in the job and had already been using typewriters and maybe were reluctant to do anything other than the typewriters, but they needed to be trained so that then they could learn, oh, this is actually way better. And, we could kind of redesign the job and now, get rid of the typewriters. Like, that makes a lot of sense. If we have been following job analysis and we've clarified all the CASAUs and the goals and objectives and criteria that we're going to be using for evaluation and all the things, if we've done all this, it's very unlikely that an organization would experience a workplace lawsuit where a disgruntled employee is saying, I was treated unfairly. Because if everything's all outlined and everybody knows what the job is and everybody knows what's happening and everything's transparent and clear, everybody's going to be safer. The employee's going to be safer, the organization's going to be safer, and so it's worth an organization's time to go through this process. It's time consuming, but it's worth their while. All right, let's stop here and we'll talk in the next section about job evaluation.